Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of December 29th to January 4th. Now, before we do any recap, breakdown, or anything along these lines, I have a final reminder that effective January 1st, my pricing on my sessions is going up. However, what does that mean in the meantime? It means you got a couple more days to actually go to the website and book your sessions at the current 2025 pricing. Now, what does that mean? Go to the website, www.thespirituallyboujee.com, go to astrological services, got a couple different options to go for. You can do one-on-one sessions, 60 minutes at $50. This is going to go up to 65. Whenever it comes to the 90-minute sessions, these are going to go up to $90. They are still currently at $70. You can also book packages. If you decide to do that, they are actually still cheaper. You can do 3 60-minute sessions at $40 a piece, or you can do 5 at $35 a piece. This pricing, I have not decided what I'm going to do with it yet, but it is going up as well. So again, you have until New Year's Eve, because January 1st, that pricing is going up. I started warning about this back in October. Many of you, we've talked about it individually, and most of you are very satisfied with the fact that I am increasing my prices. I know I tend to be a lot lower than a lot of the other readers. It's not a comparison thing. It's actually a part of my chart. It really is. I say this to a lot of people individually, but this is actually a part of my chart. I have Uranus in Sagittarius, but it's in mutual reception with Jupiter in Aquarius. And I have always read this for myself that if I focus on people, Jupiter and Aquarius, the money comes. Uranus in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is my second house of money. So that's the way I read it all the time. Like if I just focus on the people, the money comes. And that has always served me well. So, final reminder, final. You have until New Year's Eve to book sessions at the 2025 pricing because in 2026, it's going up. Okay. Now, one of the things I started to say way back in September, October timeframe is the end of 2025 is about unfinished business, unresolved wounds, unresolved patterns that we needed to recognize, things we needed to release, things we needed to purge, things we needed to let go of, because whatever we needed to release, how big or how small, doesn't matter. It is because it doesn't go with us into the new normal. And 2026 starts the new normal. And there's a multitude of reasons as to why. I'm not going to get into that in this episode. I'll probably put more of it in the emphasis of the January month ahead episode, as well as there'll be 3 episodes this week, the weekly one, the January month ahead, and then the full moon in Cancer. So I'm not going to put a lot of that emphasis in this particular one. But there was a reason for all of that awareness. And it's really to make us recognize the stuff we don't continue, the things we don't continue to allow to happen, the things we don't settle for, the things we don't just accept as is. The thing about Saturn and Pisces over the last few years is it has forced us, telling us it is time to heal deep-seated emotional wounds. When it comes to the water signs, I specifically look at Pisces as like, this is the ocean, and you have no idea how deep the depths are. We don't always know where the bottom is going to be. And whenever you get down there, you certainly can't see everything. It's one of those things that we have to feel it to understand it. We have to experience it to understand it. We have to have those little triggers that many of us, especially over the last few months, have had, so we can recognize the wound and heal our emotions. Now, we've had other transits during this time that have also spoke to that. The Jupiter Chiron square is a big one. And that is the one where I was specifically saying, hey, babies, it's time to do the opposite. Do the opposite. The reason I started to tell people back in October, whenever we were going into this purge of like, we need to release the pattern of stuff that we don't continue. And the best way to do that is to do the opposite in certain situations. Again, it was so we could recognize the pattern, but also break away from the things that we have been blind to. Because the thing about ourselves is sometimes we're blind to our own pattern. We don't even realize how our reactions are perceived by other people. Some people can take your reaction as childish. You always just want to pick a fight. You just want to fight about everything. Some people can perceive your reaction as that you're a flight person. You just run or you freeze and you don't say anything at all. And people don't realize you're just shutting down. And for many of you, what I said, as opposed to standing there, taking it and shutting down, walk away. For those of you that were able to figure out the way to walk away, the way to not respond from a point of anger, to not continue certain patterns, to not engage in the wound that has been like family trauma that has been ingrained. Like it's a pattern because this is what you were taught. You were taught from an abusive standpoint. And people don't realize it until you're forced out of the situation to look at something from that outside perspective. So many of us have come to a conclusion throughout that last part of 2025 as to what we should not be continuing. A lot of this week is going to have final little bits towards the evaluation of what we release, what we let go of, and what we must purge. And I need people to understand that as much as there is this tone of like setting new rules, because the thing about the Capricorn side of the transits, it is about that. Being productive, setting new rules, setting new boundaries. We also have to evaluate the old ones before we set the new ones. And for some people, the evaluation is going to have some final level of emotional release, especially this week, because again, we have a full moon in Cancer this week. And whenever it comes to that particular water sign, I look at Cancer like storms. Now, sometimes a storm can be a gentle, easy, just a little bit of pitter patter rain all day. It's going to be fine. I just need to purge this. I need to let it go. I need to let these tears fall, and it's fine. Sometimes it's happy tears, but not always. Sometimes a storm can take out an entire town. I'm in Oklahoma. This is Tornado Alley. Sometimes a storm can take out an entire town. It's called an F5 tornado. We've had a cute couple. Some of the other states in the central area of the US, y'all really had an uptick of those yourselves over the last decade. I've literally dealt with this since I was a child. Some of us, we just go outside and look for it. We're weird, I know. But it is what it is. Sometimes a storm, sometimes our emotions can get the better of us. And in our emotions, we can take out an entire family. We can take out an entire town. Got to go a little lemonade. Picturing Beyonce with the bat. Working on those emotions. Parts of this week requires evaluation. Again, releasing certain wounds, certain emotions, certain reactions, evaluating the process, the responsibility, the procedure, the way we've done certain things in the past, the traditions, and being prepared to rewrite them. Now, this week is not necessarily the rewriting. That kind of feels like it's more deeper once we are into January. And I know we start January this week, but we start it. We ain't fully in it. As we go through the month of January, there's going to be a lot of new that's meant to come through. For some people, the new is not just the idea of new roles and new responsibilities with a new job. I got a promotion. I'm going to this new place. And if that is the case for you, I'm not dismissing it. I'm very, very proud for you. And I am anticipating for many of you that this is going to be a hellacious challenge that many of you are going to wish to accomplish, succeed, and completely reframe things as we go through the year of 2026. However, it's going to take an entire year. This is the week of a final little bits of evaluation, final little bits of emotional release, final little bits of putting something into order, because it's very, very necessary for us in our healing process. Because as much as we have these productive Capricorn transits that are going on, Saturn is still in Pisces. But the good news is, now that all these transits are in Capricorn, it's funny because Saturn is moving again. From the end of October through most of December, Saturn was stationed at 25 degrees of Pisces. He was just sitting there and spinning. And even in parts of October and November, he was not the only one. And anytime you have multiple planets just sitting in place and spinning and spiraling, it can also manifest into a person as sitting in place and spinning and spiraling, feeling stuck, feeling hopeless, feeling kind of crazy, feeling kind of confused. Nothing's happening. Why isn't anything happening? Because making you sit still energetically forces you to take stock, think, process, and take accountability. It forces you to take a reflective look at your boundaries, what's necessary, what's allowable, what's not. And for many of you, the only way to get over whatever situation was still holding you back and triggering you was to escape. It was to release. It was to remove. It was to let go. This is a final week of release and letting go. But I also feel like it's like that one where we also let our emotions come through. And for some people, that's going to be a nice, gentle rain. And for other people, that might be a little bit more of a storm. Because again, full moon in Cancer. It's not all about the emotions, though. And not all of us are in a place of emotional turmoil. Some of us are seeing a whole new light by processing our emotions, by letting go of the old traditions, the old routine, the stuff that we allowed to happen, letting go of that habitual level of meanness that so many people that have expressed. And it's like every time you break more and more away, you did more and more of the opposite, you felt more and more relief. And for some people, the emotional processing, sorry, I can't talk now, of this week is coming to a peak in our relief. And your storm might be more like happy tears, and that's okay. Doing things that make us feel safe, secure, and it's a hopeful energy. But the entire week, regardless of the transit, we have a vibration of certain things being forced into the present, forced into light, forced into reality, forced into our vibration. Why am I saying that? Going back to the lemonade example, I'm probably just going to name this episode Lemonade. At some point, you have to make the discovery. At some point, you have to go through the phone. You have to hire a PI. You get the Reddit help, the TikTok help of all the internet sleuths going, we'll do it for you, baby. Because a lot of them will. Ooh, a lot of them will. The thing about social media is that's a great power that not everybody knows how to harness sometimes. It's using that to understand, to find clarity, to discover, for some people, the disruption, to discover the necessity of something, the desire of something. There is something that's meant to be coming to light. Now, the thing about that energy is it's not exact this week. However, we have two planets getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the sun. And what that tends to tell me is the more those planets start to burn, because that's actually what happens in the old deity mindset of whenever a planet comes into a conjunction with the sun, is as it's coming closer, there's a shedding, a burning off of the old, a burning because it's the sun and there's fire, burning of something. But this is happening in Capricorn. Now, the first planet that will have a conjunction to the sun is Venus, but that's not happening this week. The other one's going to be Mars. That's also not happening this week. However, horseshoes and hand grenades, if you've ever played, if you're close, you can still do damage. You can still get points. You can still have things come to light. If you have a hunch, if you're looking for something, if you're waiting for something, if you're pushing for something to come out, to come to light, to debut, that too can happen this week. However, for most of us, it's more likely to happen next week. But I'm not going to negate that discovery is still a very big part of this vibration. And even in the discovery of certain things, we can have emotions brought to the surface. We can bring certain things to light. We can have certain things come to the surface that we were not anticipating before. And I need people to understand a lot of what this vibration is going to start to give us from this point forward is new. Because there's a lot of new to January. And partway through this week, we go into January. Yay, yay. We go into that 1 month, that 1 year. Whew, and get closer and closer to the planetary rebirths. It's going to be very interesting. Let's get into the month or the week. Let's get into the week. Let's get into the transits. And let's take a look. Now, I've got this starting at 10:30 a.m. on December 29th. Overnight, the moon goes from Aries into Taurus, but while the moon is wrapping up its trip through Aries from midnight until 6 in the morning, basically, the moon is void. Like, it's not doing anything. Around 5:58 a.m., the moon is going to go into Taurus. And by this 10:30 time frame, we're going through a square with Pluto. So here's Pluto, 2 degrees, 38 minutes with the moon squared, 2 degrees, 42. We're just past the exactness. But for some people, there's going to be a little bit of pressure to Monday morning of some kind of power dynamic because it's Pluto. A plumbing issue because it's Pluto, if we're having to deal with that. Something that was going on behind the scenes, below the surface, that comes out in some way that it feels like a challenge. Again, we can have elements this week that speak to revelation. The other thing I want to show you about this time span is look at Venus, the sun, and Mars. Because all throughout the week, these two are getting closer and closer to the sun. Like, everything's getting closer together. There can be revelation at any point. Right now, the moon is in Venus's sign as Venus is getting closer to its conjunction to the sun. Even if we don't have immediate release of information, there can be little trigger points letting us know, those little hints of, you do need to go through that man's phone. I'm going to just keep using the lemonade reference. You do need to check it out. You do need to pay attention. And for some people, whenever we have hard squares from Pluto, which this is kind of a hard square, it's a trigger of insecurity forcing us to look, forcing us to think something through, talk about something, a fear from the past in some way, but how it's impressing something into the future. That can go into this. Now, over the next few days, while the moon is going through Taurus, again, the sun will be getting closer and closer to Venus. So we can have discoveries during these few days, but it's not one specific thing. And I want to be clear about that, because I feel like people will have like a multitude of little things that can come to light, and it doesn't always have to be bad. Okay. Pluto's going to square the moon the most exact between 9:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. As we get into the afternoon, Venus is now going to be involved. So this is going to be between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. I got it now at 5:30. Venus, 6 degrees, 39 minutes, can't talk, is in a trine, trines are triangles, earth to earth. This is element to the moon. Now, the moon does very, very well in Taurus. Being hosted by this Venus, we can be looking at the appearance, giving understanding about the appearance of something, what needs to physically change, our desires of something, but this isn't desire in like the heavy petting sense. It's more along the lines of like, I have a hope that this can be how we do it. Venus is in Capricorn, so this can have to be about an elder. This can have to do with roles and responsibility. There's some kind of additional understanding about this is the thing that we need to take care of for grandma, for grandpa, for the elder, for the boss. Because for some people, it is going to be the boss. Venus hitting the trine to the moon. There's a productive understanding in some way. There can be guidance, there can be direction, but there doesn't necessarily have to be like a challenge. This does not feel like a challenge at all in a negative sense. It can be a push to like, hey, I want you to get this done. Can you get this done before the new year? That kind of challenge. But it's one of those things that if you have the right tools in front of you, you're more likely to accept it and not in a contradictory way of an idea of challenge. Okay. Right after the Venus goes through a trine with the sun between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m. I'm putting this now at 8:30. The sun, 8 degrees 38 minutes, will also go through a trine with the moon. So here's the moon, 8 degrees 42. Again, we're in this productive energy. Some of us are going to get to Monday evening and we're going to be pushing things forward, stating things forward. We're trying to get some things put together. We're trying to get people involved. Again, this is more about being productive. This is more about putting something together or having a tangible aspect to it, getting the house cleaned out, pulling some final things out of the kitchen cabinets because some of us haven't cleaned out the kitchen cabinets yet, of making space for something. Again, we're working towards some final round of completion. But again, it feels almost like a challenge, but it's not a challenge. Like you're not being pushed to do this or die. Like it's not that, but it's more along the lines of like, hey, can we get this done this evening? Can we get this wrapped up? We've got some final things to be here. There's something very productive of we're trying to do more than one thing. And that can create little hints of anxiety, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. For some people, once the moon goes into Taurus, like I just want to veg out. I want to sit here and watch movies. I want to be comfortable. I just don't feel like everybody gets the chance to be comfortable this time around because one, it is the end of the year. And two, we have all this earthy, productive energy that doesn't speak to just sitting still. Some people will, a lot of people won't. All right. We're going to get into the 30th. We're getting into Tuesday. The moon's going to be in Taurus all day long. Now, as soon as the moon goes into Taurus, it starts its trine from the moon. I'm sorry, Mars will hit its trine to the moon. I don't think I said that right. Here's Mars, 11 degrees, 21 minutes. Here's the moon, 11 degrees, 8 minutes. This is going to get a little bit closer to exact, roughly around 1 a.m. Now, go ahead and bump this to 1:30, though. We've got the other transit happening just past its exact point. So this is two transits in one. We have Mars is trine to the moon, again, 11 degrees 23. Here's the moon, 11:44. Simultaneously, during this overnight hour, Mercury, 26 degrees 5 minutes, hits the square to Saturn. This is actually the most exact between 1:12 and 1:27 a.m. Central Standard Time. For some people, this is going to be a part of that Monday night challenge. Let's get something going. Let's put something into order kind of energy. For some people, this will literally manifest into Tuesday. For some people, it will be both. But Mercury hitting that square to Saturn, there's news, there's information, there's a decision, there's something that is communicated, Mercury. There's something that's signed off on, Mercury. There's something that is being voiced, approved, or challenged in some way, given it's square to Saturn. The difference between all the other squares to Saturn than this one to this one right here, because we've had a couple planets whenever it was in Sagittarius, it squares to Saturn, is now look at all the planets Saturn is hosting. Venus, it's getting closer to its conjunction to the sun, which is getting it closer to its conjunction to Mars. And Pluto, of course, has been in Aquarius for a while. So I'm not worried about Pluto right now, but some of the news and some of the information can have to do with the productiveness. Some of it can also have to do with like the rules, the boundaries, the process. Some of it can have to do with like the steps we need to take to fulfill a desire, to fulfill a comfort, to do certain things. There's still a productiveness here, even if it's not necessarily like an end of the year challenge, but there's still something about movement, preparation, moving things around, pushing things around. For some people, again, this will manifest late Monday night, and we're just having a late night going into Tuesday. For other people, this will be more a part of Tuesday. That comes down to that human effect, which varies for everybody. Now, after this exactness of the square between Mercury and Saturn, the trine between Mars and the moon right here, it's not that anything's going wrong. It's just we're done with the transits until the actual afternoon of Tuesday. And the afternoon's not crazy. It's actually very, very light compared to other things that we've dealt with so far. The moon in Taurus right here, 21 degrees, 31 minutes, is hitting a sextile to Jupiter. Not heavy energy. Jupiter's the doctor, the guru, the teacher. It's asking someone to teach you something. It's giving information to the doctor, the guru, the teacher. It's providing something. It's giving elements of some additional energy that is going to play out over the next 2 weeks. Like it can have a foreshadowing effect, but I'm not quick to go straight to that because I feel like everybody's going to be in different placements. Some people need comfort from the doctor, the guru, the teacher. We go to somebody that we would normally ask advice from, and it's exactly that. We need advice. We need to talk things through. We need to let some things out. We need to voice some things. Some of the things that we're confused about, and other ways it's stuff that we're trying to put into an order. And it's like, I can make this work, but I don't know the code. I need somebody else to tell me the code, to tell me the process. I need somebody else's input about what's the best paint color. I need a different paint color. Some people, it's going to be that. And it's getting information, it's getting advice, it's getting something from somebody that we respect, that we see it as an authority figure, but not necessarily an authority figure over us. They can just give us a different perspective. And I mean this in a healthy way. This is not heavy energy, which is great. Tuesday's not super heavy. Some people are not going to have a whole lot going on. It really kind of depends on how your natal chart is being activated, but there's not a whole lot of craziness to Tuesday. As we continue, we're going to get into the 31st. We're getting into Wednesday. The moon is going to be in Taurus all through the overnight hours between midnight and 2 a.m., which is where we're at right now. Saturn, 26 degrees, 7 minutes, is going to hit a sextile to the moon. This can be stuff with the elder. This can have to do with some levels of responsibility. Considering it's happening so late, well, it's happening right at midnight. I should say it that way. Because it's happening right at that midnight, for some people, this will manifest into Tuesday evening. I'm just showing you based off the exactness. For me, this is right after midnight going into Wednesday. But it's like something with the elder, something with the boss, some level of responsibility being sent out, being issued out, being spoken out, because we're going into this sextile with the moon. There can be not Friday, I'm sorry, for whatever reason I wanted to call this a Friday night. There can be on this Tuesday night going into Wednesday, these overnight hours, some things that kind of have us really overthinking and being very mentally busy and maybe having a hard time sleeping. It kind of depends on how you're dealing with the rest of the transits. For some people, you're going to have the downloads in the overnight hours of Tuesday night going into Wednesday. And when you wake up Wednesday morning, then you're going to be like mentally charged or challenged to talk something through, to move something through in a very specific way, because it all came through in the overnight in a way that can't be easily expressed. Okay. So Saturn is hitting the sextile to the moon. That's going to happen again between midnight and 2 a.m. Right after that, between 3 and 5 a.m., I got this down at 3:30. The moon is going to hit a conjunction to Uranus. You can see we're super close to that right here. This can have to do with technology. This can have something very, very unexpected. You can hear something unexpectedly about somebody else's decision. This is very specific information, but FYI, that we don't necessarily understand, that we don't see eye to eye with, that we don't necessarily agree with. Why am I saying that? Because the moon and Uranus in their conjunction, they're making this quincunx to Mercury. I'm not quick to bring up quincunxes all the time because it's pretty common to go through them, but there's something specific about this one that I think is interesting, because we are now in the point of where we're wrapping up Mercury through Sagittarius. And right after this conjunction to Uranus, the moon is going to go into Gemini, which is Mercury's sign. So we can either hear something in the overnight hours of Tuesday night going into Wednesday, or human effect Wednesday morning, we hear something unexpectedly that we were unaware of, kind of blindsided by in a certain way, that initially we're either against or we had no idea what was going on. And it takes us a few days to actually gather ourselves and gather the idea and put something into perspective. And I feel like that's a lot of what we're stuck to deal with in the transition of this overnight hours of Tuesday night through Wednesday morning. The moon hitting the conjunction to Uranus, again, there's some kind of communication, something with technology, something hitting unexpectedly. As we continue after the moon's conjunction to Uranus, we're going to go through this sextile from Neptune. That is felt the most exact between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm just at the start of it right here at this 5:30. Here is Neptune 29. Here's the moon 28:55. If I move it to 6:30, it's going to be a little bit closer. Yeah, we're just past the exact right there. Anytime Neptune's involved, there could be something that's very, very confusing, kind of blurry. We were not anticipating. It can have, again, to do with the dream energy. It can have to do with the manifestation energy. There can be something kind of surreal in our environments. And again, because all of this is happening in overnight hours, if you are asleep, the dream energy can be very, very crazy. But it's like as soon as we wake up, at 7:14 a.m., the moon is going to go into Mercury. And again, it feels like, and I picked this up in my notes, as soon as the moon goes into Gemini, goes into Mercury's sign, there is this mental fueling of something I need to get done. I need to get accomplished. I need to get this wrapped up. I need to get to put into order. I need to do the thing, whatever the thing is. I need to talk this through. I need to sign off on it. I need to pay this off. I need to process it. I need to do something, but there's actions and communication and policy and procedure all kind of in this vibration. So for some people, this is going to be a very serious, I got to get this done. And considering, again, it's the very last day of the year, some people will be like, I have to do this filing today. I have to do it today. I'm filing. I'm getting it done. I got the paperwork. There can be a lot of paperwork involved. It has to be handled today because if I do it tomorrow, then I'm in the new year. So there's something very much about the finalization. One part because of the year part that where we're at, but two, because now that the moon is in Mercury's sign, Mercury is wrapping up its trip through Sagittarius. And there's something we can be very, very focused on that other people are not seeing coming. They're kind of confused. They're kind of blindsided by. Some of us are going to be very, very confused, but our mental energy is going to be very, very busy. The things we're talking about, very, very busy once the moon goes into Gemini. So if we're trying to be productive, mentally productive, conversationally productive, we got a lot of things going on, a lot of things ready to come out of our mouths. And for a couple people, this is going to be some fire mouth energy. We're going to finally say some things to some people over the next few days that they did not see coming, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't. Okay. The moon is now in Gemini. And right after the moon goes into Gemini between 10:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 11:30, Pluto is going to hit a trine to the moon. There can be some little bits of insecurity for some people. For some others, it's going to be an understanding of, again, something that must be communicated, that must change. And for some people, the communication is also including the idea of something needs to wrap up because, again, the moon is in Gemini. It's in Mercury's sign, and Mercury is wrapping up its energy through Sagittarius over these next 2 days. So for a lot of people, the things that we were talking about, we were telling somebody, this is the last time. I'm getting this wrapped up. I'm getting this handled. I'm getting this taken care of. It's getting paid off. It's something. There's something in the finalization as well as the communication. And for some people, that's going to help overcome a fear with the trine from Pluto right here. For other people, it is going to help us overcome a power struggle. For other people, it's going to be an instigation as to understanding a transformation. And that's a more positive energy whenever it comes to Pluto. Some of us are just going to be able to have conversations to finally talk about some past power struggles so we can finally release it. This is going to be a lot of talk therapy energy and a lot of like verbally releasing things that don't go with us into the new year all day on the 31st. It's busy, it's chitter chatter, people are running around, people are doing a bunch of things. I don't mean this in the negative sense. It's just a very mentally busy energy, but it's also kind of happy. Mercury in Sagittarius is kind of hopeful still. So let's be fair about that. We're going to finish up, of course. Happy New Year. We're done with the 31st. We're going into January 1st. We're going into Thursday. And the moon's going to be in Gemini all day long. Our first transit actually is going to go exact in the morning time. And this is where Mercury will hit its exact square to Neptune. Now, this is going to be the most exact between 7:21 and 7:36 a.m. So I got this now at 7:30. Here is Mercury, 29 degrees, 30 minutes. Here is Neptune, 29:30. Some of us are going to wake up hungover. Now, that's an easy thing to say, of course, because it's the new year. However, anytime a Neptune transit is involved in such a celebratory energy, there's going to be some people that we got a little overindulgent the night before and we're waking up really confused. What just happened? How did I even get home? Where am I at? Am I home? There will be some people that they have no idea what they're waking up to. They're very, very confused. For other people, we're going to feel very inspired. I'm giving a positive spin to Mercury's square to Neptune to do something different. There will be some realness in the energy that can come through in very mundane ways of like, you would normally go to a certain place on Thursday morning, but that place is closed because it's New Year's. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do with it now. This is my pattern. This is my routine. It's just kind of surreal. For other people, it is going to be telling somebody that they've lied. That lies, fraud, deception stuff with Neptune. For some people, we're going to be talking about the symptoms of something, how something's making us feel. But I mean the symptoms in the sense of like something in your health. There can be talking about the symptoms of something that we are feeling, that we need to process again, that we need to work through, that we need to purge. Mercury's square to Neptune is going to be a very surreal, hard to kind of connect at first energy. Whenever we wake up that morning, a lot of people will be like, I don't even know where I'm at right now. And that's okay. A lot of people are going to feel that way all throughout the overnights because the square to Neptune, again, it goes the most exact in the morning time, but we were dealing with it Wednesday evening going into Thursday. We are still going to be dealing with it all day on Thursday. So again, anticipate that surreal vibration. For a lot of people, again, Mercury wrapping up its trip through Sagittarius, there's something we're very, very aware that we're not doing anymore. I'm not paying for this anymore. I'm not going to continue this. I'm not going to work on this. I'm not going to let this continue to happen. And at 3:11 p.m. Central Standard Time, bumping this now to 3:30, Mercury goes into Capricorn. And now we have another planet in Saturn's sign. And look, remember, this is that week that we finally get Saturn moving again. And for a lot of people, Mercury going into Capricorn is going to bring an arrival. For some people, it will be the news of an arrival. For other people, it will actually be an arrival. Like you turn the corner and you run into somebody outside of a building or in the grocery store. Like we're trying to be responsible and you run into somebody. This can be somebody new. I feel like for a lot more people, it's more likely to be new than it is old. But Mercury coming into Capricorn is going to bring some kind of new information, a new person, some kind of new documentation, a new process, a new plan, a new order that our mind starts to think about. Because now, while the moon is in Gemini, in Mercury's sign, Mercury is now in a new sign. This is what we got to start doing from here. Okay. Oh, between 6 p.m. and 8:30, I gave a bit of a larger window on this one just because of the oddity of the time frame. So I've got it now at 7:30. Chiron, 22 degrees, 35 minutes, is going to hit a sextile to the moon. Wounds from the past, solutions from the past. Sometimes we need advice from certain people. We talk to somebody else about how they put something into order, how they were able to create something, how they were able to do something, the actions that they took, the role that they took, how that offered solutions into something now. This is still a mental energy. What I'm looking at is the moon is in Mercury's sign and Chiron is in Mars' sign, but both Mercury and Mars are in Capricorn. There's some kind of role, there's some kind of responsibility, there's some type of matter of factness, there's some type of routine, there's some type of action, there's something that is being communicated that has some idea of a solution, but there's actions around the solution. And it again goes into the role, the responsibility, the pattern of how we've done things in the past, while also recognizing how we don't continue to do things into the future. There is something new in this vibration, and the new is meant to be more like a solution orientation. It's how we don't let wounds bother us anymore. It's talking about how some things in the past did bother us and how we can move forward from here. It doesn't have to be heavy energy, but there does still seem to be something new about if we take this action from here forward, we can have this kind of solution. We can have some kind of turnaround. Give me a few weeks and I'll show you the process. Give me a few weeks and I'll show you something different. And if you are going to set intentions, like manifestation intentions, this is a hell of a new year resolution time frame with all the planetary rebirths. This is one of those years that if you want to set an intention, do your vision board of the stuff that you want to manifest. Ooh, this is a powerful year to do it. Okay. Now, after Chiron's sextile to the moon, a whole lot going on. It's not that the moon is void, it's just not anything isn't really going on until we get into Friday. Hello, January 2nd. Now, all through the overnight hours, the moon is going to be in Gemini, and the moon's going to get very, very busy right after midnight between 12 and 2 a.m. Central Standard Time. Saturn is going to square the moon. But the difference is Saturn is hosting Mercury, it's hosting Venus, it's hosting the Sun, it's hosting Mars. And as we've continued to this entire week, remember, all of these things are getting closer. Mercury has newly arrived into Capricorn. We're meant to have new things this week. New things come to light, some kind of news, some kind of decision, some type of information. For some people, that information is going to come through late on January 1st. For other people, it is actually going to manifest on January 2nd. The square between Saturn and the moon gives order, so to speak, gives kind of a comprehensive plan of what we should be doing next, what we should be doing now. There's direction here. Saturn is in the higher authority, but Saturn is aware of a lot more things that need to be done differently, that we need to push forward, that we need to communicate. And again, there can be direction here. There's some level of order, Saturn square to the moon. As we get into the early morning time between 5 and 7:30 a.m., I gave a bigger window on purpose. Got this now at 6:30. Neptune, 29 degrees, 31 minutes, is going to square the moon. So we're just past the exactness right here, but it's still going to be something that encompasses the entire morning time. There can be a fogginess. There could be something that comes through that we're very confused by. There's something that can come through that's very unexpected. It could have happened in the late night hours the night before. It can impact this morning just as much. Neptune hitting the square to the moon is giving some kind of information that, again, is new, but it can also speak to something that needs to be done differently. Now, for some people, that's going to be kind of hurtful. For other people, it's not going to be so much. But what can happen in the overnight hours of Friday night going into Thursday night going into Friday morning is it can trigger some emotions of things that we need to start doing differently, things that we need to start taking care of differently. Why do I say that? 6:30 a.m., moon 29 degrees of Gemini. Bump this now to 7:30 a.m., and the moon is now in Cancer. The moon goes into Cancer at 7:10 a.m., and as soon as the moon goes into Cancer, we are in full moon vibration. And over the next 48 hours from the moon going into Cancer until Sunday afternoon, the moon is going to aspect every planet. It's going to start off with an opposition to Mercury, Venus, the full moon itself, which is an opposition to the sun, an opposition to Mars. It's going to have aspects to Jupiter, to Uranus, to Saturn, and Neptune. And then once we're done with the moon in Cancer, and as soon as it goes in Leo, it starts its stuff with Pluto. So I'm telling you, the weekend, once the moon goes into Cancer, it is either going to have a lot of little things that trigger some final rounds of emotions that can be a storm. But for some people, it's going to be a gentle, happy tear kind of storm of just soft rain. For other people, it is going to be a blizzard. It's going to be an ice storm. It's going to be a tornado. It's going to be a typhoon. It really kind of depends on where we're at in this energy, because there's one final thing that must be released, emotional release. One final thing that we must be sensitive to and take care of. because again, we're in this element where we're going to start doing new things going into 2026, rewriting the rules, rewriting the process, rewriting the procedure, rewriting the responsibility. But before we can commit to the rewrite, we need one final emotional purge. And once the moon goes into Cancer and we hit this full moon vibration immediately, there's going to be things that need to come out. Some of it's going to be good. Some of it's going to be harsh. Some of it's just going to be a purge and release. Some of it is going to hit some people in very raw areas. But the moon going into Cancer is very, very necessary for one final element to releasing the things that do not go with us into the new normal. Hello, the moon is now in Cancer. Back to this. Okay. Now, right after the moon goes into Cancer, what does the moon start doing? It hits this opposition to Mercury. Now, this is going to be felt the most exact between 8 and 10:30 a.m. I kind of gave it a bigger window, got it now at 9:30. Here's Mercury 1 degree 10 minutes. Here's the moon at 1 degree 28. They were closer to exact around 8:45, 9 a.m., but I'm giving a bigger window because Mercury is moving faster right now. This again harkens to something new, something coming into light, some new information, some kind of new decision, some type of new role, some type of new responsibility. Some of us are going to hear that somebody else is taking on a position, that they're getting a promotion, and it can trigger emotions in us because we got bypassed. Let's be fair about that. But for other people, there's going to be some kind of direction like, hey, just so you know, Cindy over here, she's about to start working and you're going to be the one training her. This is the person that you will be responsible for taking care of. This is the person that you need to listen to because they know all the rules, the process, and the procedure. For some of us, it's going to be something very, very new. It's either a new person that we have to take care of, new things that we need to take care of, new information that triggers emotions, or for other people, it's like, here's the policy, the rules, the process, procedure, and let me teach it to you because this is going to be the new stuff that we start to do. For some people, this will have emotional elements. For other people, it's going to be, again, the things that we must put into order because Mercury is now in Capricorn. Okay. Oh, the moon's going to be in Cancer all day long. Some people are going to, again, have their emotions at play. There's going to be some things that we need to purge, that we need to take care of. If you are having a heavily emotional day, or we're having a lot of things that just find their way to the surface, some like nostalgic type things, that would not surprise me. It really wouldn't. After the moon's opposition to Mercury, there's not a whole lot going on until we get to the actual third. And this is when the full moon is going to perfect, just so everybody's aware. At between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m., I got this now at 2:30, the moon is going to hit this opposition to Venus. And we're going to have this like stair step effect where the moon hits the opposition to Venus, it hits the opposition to the sun, it hits the opposition to Mars, all in the overnight hours. So some of the emotional processing, some of the storms, some of what needs to come out, some of what needs to get purged, some of the things that we need to take care of. If it's more around the sensitivity energy of like, this is what's going to make me feel better. I need a girl's night with a face mask, and I need to have all the feels. I need the romantic comedy. I need something like this to feel better. For some people, it's going to be a nice, gentle storm. For other people, it's going to be something else. The moon hits the opposition to Venus between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I got it now at 2:30. This can be something in regards to the taste, Venus, the appearance, Venus. Some of us, the only way we can process our emotions is to change something in our appearance. And we might be talking to our friend again in these overnight hours. For some people, it's going to be late on the second. For other people, it's going to manifest on Saturday of like, I think it's time for me to cut it all off. I want to cut it and I want to dye it pink. I want to go blue. I want to go black. I want to go green. I want to do something, and it's changing the appearance. And it's like one final step in that emotional release. For a lot of people, whenever we cut off parts of our hair, it is a release of emotional trauma because it allows for us to release wounds. In certain Native American traditions, whenever we lose a family member, one of the things that we do is we cut off parts of our hair. And a lot of people, you've heard me tell that story before a long time ago. You cut off parts of your hair and it gets buried with the dead. Like we send it on with the dead. There is something about changing the physical appearance, the color, the taste, that can be a big part of the emotional purging. And that has to do with one, Moon's opposition to Venus, but two, Venus is building her conjunction to the sun. So please do not be surprised if we go into the new year with a lot of people showing off where we want to make a physical change to something. Don't be surprised. Okay. The moon hits the opposition to Venus. The moon will hit the opposition to the sun between 3 and 5 a.m. It's actually, the full moon is going to be exact at 4:02 a.m. Got this now at 4:30. Here's the sun 13:03. Here is the moon 13:18. I will, of course, do a full moon video later. I'm not going to do all that right now. We're in full moon vibration all the way through the weekend. And then between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is hitting this opposition to Mars. The actions that we must take, the desires, hidden desires coming to the surface and requiring us to process some emotions because of that. Somebody else's hidden desires being brought to light can trigger emotions in you, their desires to take an action, their desires to do something new. You find out your boyfriend has not only been cheating, but they've taken a job in another state and they didn't even tell you. One of these days, you were just going to wake up and find that they have moved on all the way and didn't tell you. Wouldn't that suck? I've seen it happen to people. But the moon hitting the opposition to Mars, some people are going to wake up also feeling very confrontational, very disruptive, very abrasive. And there's something about our emotions that we're needing to process, that we're needing to finally take care of. For other people, if it's not the abrasive energy, it's like, you know what? I feel like if I go do this one kind of self-care thing, I'm going to go get a massage, that it is going to allow for something else to purge. And that could be true. And we need the action of the other person, of the other side, of doing that thing so we can emotionally release something. There's something about needing to take steps, a process, a part of the procedure of some sort, while also eliminating emotions that are being carried in our body. There's something very much we need to eliminate it. We need to let it go. Now, we will be in full moon energy all day long. A lot of people are going to be feeling that full moon energy, and it's going to make them a little crazy. I'm sorry, it is what it is. Things we need to take care of, things that we need to do differently, wounds around our parents, our family, our mother. Don't be surprised by that, but it is a full moon in Cancer, and Cancer a lot of times has to do with mothers and families. There can be stuff that's disruptive around there. By the time we get into the afternoon between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I got this now at 4:30, the moon's going to hit a conjunction to Jupiter. Jupiter is the doctor, the guru, the teacher. I need some kind of information. I need some support. I need to understand something. Can you help me with something? Can you talk to me about this? I need to know what I don't know. Moon's conjunction to Jupiter. For some people, the only way you can process your emotions is to hear the lessons, to understand the why we had to do something differently, why certain things hurt so bad. Why do I say that part? It's after the moon's conjunction to Jupiter between 4 and 6 p.m. The Chiron is going to hit a square to the moon, and this is going to happen between 6:30 and 8:30. So now I got this at 6:30. The moon's still kind of in its conjunction to Jupiter, but it's reactivating the Chiron Jupiter square. And again, there are certain things that go all the way back to the beginning of fourth quarter. So September, October timeframe, more so October, because that is the beginning of fourth quarter, as to why we needed to do something different, why we needed to do some opposite things, because we no longer wish to allow certain things to hurt the way that they have. And the thing about this is, whenever you look at the screen, Chiron has ended its retrograde. I actually missed this in my notes, and I just realized that over this 24-hour period with the full moon, Chiron ended its retrograde. And this is that first little hit of Chiron square to the moon. The actions that we're taking, the things that we need to come through, is how we turn something around and finally heal certain kinds of wounds. Or it's where we become aware that no, we're not going to allow certain things to continue in our wounds. Chiron is now direct. I don't know where I missed that. I did, though. I've been working a lot with Chiron, yet still I block Chiron every once in a while. So there is something about not allowing a wound to continue and the actions that we must take to overcome them. Okay. Chiron squared to the moon is going to be felt the most exact between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. There's a lot of things that we need to process. There's a lot of things that we need to understand. There's a lot of things that we need to purge. There's a lot of things that we need to release. And we need to become aware of what we need to let go of. As we get into the fourth, here we go. The moon is still going to be in Cancer all through the overnight hours. Between 1 and 3 a.m. Central Standard Time, got this now at 1:30, Saturn is going to hit a trine to the moon. What is Saturn hosting? All of this mess: Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Pluto. And we're getting closer and closer to that Venus-Sun conjunction. Saturn's trine to the moon can give notice that something has changed. It can give emotional understanding that something is in the process of changing, that there is some kind of visual change. There's an aesthetic change. For some people, we're going to be showing our parents, hey, look, I cut it all off. It's gone. And now it's about to be pink. I don't know that you should do pink. I don't really care what you think. I don't really care what you think. I'm just going to do it because this is what's going to make me feel better. This is what's going to make me feel sane. This is how I'm going to do it. Just kind of get over yourself. For some people, there needs to be levels of emotional processing, but there are also steps in physical change that we are doing to make that happen. Saturn's trine to the moon again. The elder, responsibilities, the rules, the process, the procedure. There is emotional qualities in this energy too. There's emotional understanding in here too, but there's also understanding about the new process that needs to be done, as well as evaluation of the things that need to be addressed. And there can be things about the revealing just as much as the showcase and the debuting. Little bits of everything for everybody. Again, we're going to wait to see what the human effect is going to be like, and a lot of this energy for some people. Right after Saturn's trine to the moon, Uranus is going to hit a sextile. That's going to be felt the most exact between 3:30 and 5:30 a.m. I got this now at 3:30. Here's Uranus 27:51. Here is the moon 27:26. There can be something unexpected. There can be something exciting. We'll be taking some pictures to put them onto Facebook. Are we doing all of our uploads at 3? It's something in the morning? Not necessarily, but do we want to take our photos and maybe send it to our best friend? They're like, look, I'm doing something crazy. Absolutely. I've done that to mine plenty of times. Hey, I'm doing the thing. What are you doing? I'm doing this thing. Why are you doing that? Because I felt like it. I don't know. Uranus hit the sextile to the moon. There could be something unexpected, something that we were not anticipating, something a little bit surprising, some of it a little bit exciting. It just kind of depends on how we're dealing with everything else. Given that Venus is getting closer to the conjunction to the sun, for some people, this is going to be an exciting energy. For some people, it's going to be an expect the unexpected. And oh, that's a little heavier than I thought it was going to be kind of energy. Let's be fair. Okay. After Uranus is sextile to the moon between 6 and 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I'm getting this now at 6:30, Neptune is going to hit a trine to the moon. Cloudy, confused, inspired. We can have something about the symptoms. Let's be fair about that. For other people, there can be like understanding that there was a lie in the past, something from the past that is coming back around. Changing the way that we believed something was going to happen. There can be the effects of a symptoms. This is still happening at 29 degrees. So some part of this can also be like, I'm not going to continue to do this. I don't want to believe this anymore. I don't care about this anymore. It can have to do with some little lingering bits of things that we don't want to continue, but I'm not quick to stay in that pattern. And if it is something, it's something very, very small. It's like, you know what? I don't think I want to put sugar in my coffee anymore. I think I want to switch to stevia. I want to go to Splenda. I want to do something else. It's like, whatever, like, but I don't know what I don't know. So I've never tried stevia. I'm willing to try it. It's that type of small, minute things. It's not super heavy whenever it comes to the trine from Neptune. So if we're doing something for the last time, it seems rather small. And at 7:44 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go from Cancer to Leo. Now, the moon is going to go into the sun sign as planets are hitting conjunctions to the sun. Venus will go through its conjunction to the sun while the moon is in Leo. Mars, not quite. It's going to take a few more days, but there is a revealing. There's something that's meant to come to light. There's something that's meant to come into focus. Once the moon goes into Leo, there's a bigger focus as to what is being showcased, what is being debuted, what is coming to light. Did you chop all your hair off? Did you go pink? Did you decide to do something different with your house and you're going to paint the rooms? Are we doing something to change the physical appearance? And it's like, by doing this, we also need to showcase it. So we're taking lots of photos. We're including everybody. We're getting input. There's something about getting more people involved, but it also helps with boosting our confidence. So hellacious energy for influencers, if that's going to be what your thing is going to be. But the moon is now in Leo, so certain things are meant to come into focus and come into light over the next few days. The other thing that happens as soon as the moon goes into Leo is it hits its opposition to Pluto. Now that is going to be felt the most exact between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm going to bump this into the afternoon, and this will be our last transit for the day. Whatever can come to light, whatever can come into focus, whatever can be getting showcased or debuted, for some people, it's going to be seeing a positive transformation, moon opposite Pluto. For other people, it's going to come with really triggering judgment, moon opposite Pluto. Why would you change it this way? I liked it better the other way. I don't like this new version of you. Pluto can have that heavy inclination to it just as much as it can have lighter stuff of like, oh, you look like a beautiful butterfly and I'm so proud of you for transforming. For other people, we're going to see the transformation process and there will be certain things that scream insecurity. You could be screaming, this makes you look really insecure. You could be screaming, I don't really like what that is. And it's like you create insecurity. The moon hitting the opposition to Pluto right here, we're talking about some insecurities. Some insecurities are meant to come to light. Some are meant to come into focus. For some people, we're just in fear of the new changes of what's going on. For some people, you are telling somebody that final little thing of starting now. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I'm not going to take your shit anymore. I'm not going to agree to this anymore. I don't care what you like or what you don't like. I'm done with your drama. Moon hitting the opposition to Pluto. I'm done. You can't lie to me anymore. You can't gaslight me anymore. And for some people, the physical transformation of the Sun Venus conjunction that is building, and it's not exact yet, that feels like war paint. That feels like putting on the pretty yellow dress, because I'm pretty sure I'm just going to call this episode Lemonade. Let's be fair. Putting on the pretty yellow dress, finding the right bet, finding the right thing to face your trauma head on. We don't always need, I don't want to say this next part. We don't always need to settle for abuse. And so many of us, we are done with it. We don't always need to settle for everybody else's bullshit, their opinions. They don't pay our bills. I don't know why we listen to them. They don't pay our bills. We give a lot of vibration to other people and their desires and the things that they're doing before we do other steps for ourselves. There's a lot of inkling in that energy. There's a lot of reaction in that energy. But once the moon goes into Leo, and this is how we end the week, we're doing something else to bring things into light. For other people, we're doing something to refocus and reshape our confidence. And I do mean it that if there's going to be a year that we set an intention, we want to, what is it called? Resolutions, New Year's resolutions. That's the word I'm trying to think of. If you want to set an intention and put a New Year's resolution out here, this year is a hellacious year to do it. It's a very powerful year to set an intention and being able to accomplish it way faster than what you would normally think. And I'm not a New Year's resolution person. I'm not quick to say that stuff, but I'm saying it. Set your intention, do your vision board, do what you need to do to find success this year. For other people, that's the big thing, for other people, there is this other part of the vibration that things that come to light are going to trigger the emotion. Things that come to light means we got a lot of things to get off our chest. Things that come to light are going to require immediate emotional processing. And for some people, the things that come to light are also a big part of the rewriting of the rules, the policies, the process, procedure that we start to do once we get deeper into January. But this week, it's kind of a transitional week, but it's also bringing little things to light all the way through. It's bringing new things into focus all the way through, while also making us very aware of the things that we can't continue. But the awareness is the active decision of not allowing things that bother us to continue in so many ways. And for some people, that is going to go back to childhood. It is going to go back to family. It is going to go back to some level of emotional trauma. And there is some final wave of release, but it does feel like a final one. And for those of you that you don't have some final wave of release, it's going to feel a lot gentler, that full moon in Cancer. But for other people, it's going to be a pinnacle. But this final wave of release is like finally screaming through the pain so we don't carry it anymore. It's finally acting out on all the things that we put up with, telling the world everything we've put up with. So one, they can't continue their pattern. And two, you can finally get over the wound, get over some part of that vibration, get over the frustration. If you think about the Lemonade album, I don't know why I'm stuck on that. I haven't even listened to it or anything, but that's what I'm stuck on. I keep visualizing something like this. Think about that Lemonade album. Is the entire album is her processing, one, the wound of the immediate betrayal, but two, understanding that this was a pattern of betrayal that went back generations. Her mother put up with it. Her grandmother put up with it. Her ancestors in some way put up with the same thing. We've allowed the same pattern to continue. And for many of us, the only way to recover is not just holding accountability in this immediate vibration. It is also forgiving our ancestors, our parents, for the decisions that they made. See, we always look at something from the perspective of where we are now, the healed version and the unhealed version. And we give ourselves a lot of grace, and we should. But we stop giving grace to other people because we anticipate that they're going to know better. And sometimes they don't know any more than you did. But we forget that. Most of us, our parents, were kids having kids. Nobody taught them right from wrong. They were taught to put up with it. They were taught to deal with certain things. They were taught that this is just the way it goes. It becomes generational trauma. If you really watch the visual outlet of that album, it's not just a woman getting over the scorned vibration of her husband. It is also a woman committing to healing generational trauma. And for a lot of people, the emotions that can come through this week, they might not be your own. They might be the things that we need to release, emotionally release, because it's the learned vibration that goes back decades. The wounds from our parents. We were taught from broken people, and they were taught by even more broken people. But we weren't aware of that. And the one thing that most people are now is they're coming from a bigger area of awareness. First, we have to heal and forgive ourselves, find new habits, find new strengths of how we want to take forward steps from here, but also giving grace to one or two people. Now, that doesn't mean you have to let back in your toxic family. I'm not saying that. But it's also recognizing their faults and at least forgiving them for not knowing any better. You can do that in silence. You can do that from a distance. Understanding that some people always respond from their wounds and their trauma and not necessarily what they're actually thinking, because the trauma side of their brain takes over. So many of us, we need to release emotions around wounds one final time. So again, we can go into 2026 ready to rewrite, reinstall, redo, reframe the way that we approach things, the way that we do things, and the actions that we take. Because once we're completely into 2026, we're in the new normal. Okay? Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Like I said, final days, final days, final days. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.